Good morning, everybody. Welcome to episode 38, Kansas Sports HQ. Checking in this morning, Sheldon Howe hanging out right beside me, Mr. Iowa, Sean Cutler. Good morning, Sean. How are you?
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good, man. Just, Sean and I have been sitting at the desk doing a bunch of our, I don't know what you want to call it, posting work. I put up a bunch of posts and got them all edited and put them out this morning, which takes longer than you would think. So got that all done, or at least I got the majority of it done. I got 3 posts out that start, and then I'm going to do 2 more later. So I was talking to Key a little bit this morning, just about stuff and hanging out. So all is good.
Yeah. Trying to get those posts out there. Let the world know we exist.
Let the people see the stuff.
The process.
Yeah, it's definitely been I don't know. It's a little different, but it's cool. Just because I think it helps us stay accountable and relevant and continuing to talk about the stuff that we're doing and keep sharing the cool people that we have around us, which is kind of
That's the main point.
that's the point. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it is cool. I just posted about Key. We had him on the Friday after Thanksgiving. So that kind of lets you know kind of how far ahead we are episode wise compared to content wise, which is kind of nice. So helps us stay ahead of the game. And he has a really cool story. If you guys hadn't caught that podcast yet, you should definitely go back and take a look at it.
Well, I did.
Yeah. Oh, did you listen to it?
I listened.
Nice. Yeah. No, Sean, that was when you were doing turf time, I think, that
Yeah.
day. But yeah, it's pretty cool one, man. He's got a cool story. Local kid from here, worked with me for a very long time. I have a really good relationship with him, and he's now hanging out with a bunch of NFL stars and NBA stars and just like living in a different lifestyle, but he fits it very well. So does a good job, but super humble kid. I mean, just works hard. He was a grinder, man. He absolutely put in the work when he was playing. So um cool story. It's kind of fun to just think, guy from Wichita, Kansas is now doing that type of stuff. So if you haven't checked out that pod, definitely go and check that one out. But yeah, kind of getting rolling. A little bit of an update. So Dave and his dad's surgery. We talked a little bit briefly about that yesterday. All things pointing in a good direction. So everything's going well. He is in recovery, and things are moving. Hopefully, continued to a full recovery and good things in the near future. So, super thankful and excited for that because I know that was a nice little bit of stressful time for the whole family over there and just all the loved ones. So it was exciting to get that phone call yesterday and talk to him and, just continue praying that everything, continues to plan. So good things there. But yeah, just kind of going in today. We don't really have anything crazy to talk about. We're kind of in the middle of the midweek, just going through our normal stuff that we are typically doing on a week to week basis. We've had an uptick in like our select program here on the Parisi side of things. We've had some interesting conversations over with some athletes, which I think would be kind of a fun thing to talk about. So we're going to probably start there. But yeah, things are busy. Things are rolling. It's getting colder, which isn't fun, and it's staying decently warm in here, so no complaints. But no, I had a conversation yesterday that I was going to bring up and get some back and forth on, but without like getting too many details of different things. But had a parent call and was chatting, and basically, we've had a lot of conversations back and forth different times about like high school sports and how high school coaches, you know, a lot of times high school coaches coach multiple different sports, but to dive into it, basically athlete had decided that he wasn't going to do a winter sport, mainly because he doesn't really foresee himself trying to follow into that sport into college. And, so him and I sat down, come up with the game plan. How do we spend our time wisely? What are the things we should be focusing on and doing? And then we went a few days into that programming, and then, he's getting contacted from winter sport coach saying, "Hey, we really need you on the team, like, because it's going to help the team and, all of these different things." And so now, kind of have put a little bit of a pause as they're trying to navigate and decide what they think is going to end up being best and trying to go through it. But we had really good conversation yesterday of just kind of going through it. And my kind of stance on it was, at the end of the day, ultimately, you can do whatever you want to do. You can play whatever you want to play. But, it just kind of depends on what your ultimate goal is and what you're trying to do past college or past high school into college. And then, my opinion is that, you should, especially when you're in your, coming into like your junior year, senior year of high school, probably should get pretty hyper focused on what it is that you think you're wanting to do in college so that way you can find the best track of being able to get in there. And there's a lot of time that's wasted in other areas. Now, there's some argument there, which I'm sure we'll get into some, but there's some argument, that playing multiple different things, doing different things, is beneficial in certain aspects. And so yeah, so it was a good conversation. I'm still kind of awaiting what they ultimately decide, so we'll see kind of where that goes and what that conversation states. But we had talked about, you and I were sitting on the turf yesterday, kind of talking and dissecting multiple different sports and which ones are complementary to each other, and then which ones don't really go side by side in the sense of how you can work and have kind of general outcomes. I think from both of those, but I don't know. Let's start there. Let's talk about that a little bit. What'd you kind of take from that convo when we talked with that?
I think when you're early sports specialization is not good when they're younger, but as you get to college as you get to high school and you start thinking about college and think about what you want to do in college, I think yeah, by the time you're a junior senior, it would be smart to start to focus at like break it down, and if you're going to do more than one sport, you try to do opposite seasons essentially, um and it depends. I mean, if we're talking like we were talking maybe like football, wrestling yesterday. It's like wrestling just I mean, it kills and withers away at your body even though yeah, you're going to be mentally stronger. I mean, you're definitely getting a workout every single day, but that's a absolute grind when you're trying to keep that power, keep that quickness, keep that muscle mass for football. And then, I mean, you want to keep elevating if you're trying to get to college. And I feel like sometimes some sports can be counterproductive to elevate to what you're keep you from elevating to what you're best at. Um, and you might say, well, it looks good if you're a multi sport athlete going into college. Yeah, that doesn't matter if you can't compete as well as everybody else in college because you focused on other things. And if you want to be really good at football or you want to be really good at baseball or really good at basketball, sometimes you got to make sacrifices and cut some of that other stuff out and focus on. I mean, you got to be realistic and focus on what exactly you're best at and what all attributes are going to contribute to you being best at that sport. And if something's not going to contribute to that, sometimes you got to make the sacrifice, even if you might enjoy it, to put that aside and focus on something that's going to take you farther.
I think the multi-sport athlete thing is it's circumstantial based off of a lot of other variables and where it can be like pro for your recruiting or positive for your recruiting, right? Like I hear all the time, you know, and usually I would say it typically is based off of the level of school that you're coming from, right? So, like, when it comes to recruiting, if I'm recruiting a kid and we'll just say they're at a 2A high school, yeah, I could understand why you would want to see that athlete playing in every single sports season at a 2A high school. Reason being is because number one, 2A competitiveness in comparison to, here in Kansas, 6A competitiveness are very different things. Number 1. Number 2, if I'm in, small town, rural, wherever it is, and I'm only focusing on this thing, well, then what am I doing with all of the other time? Right. And I think that's really where the mold of the coaches, especially college coaches' brains go to. And then that's kind of where that I would call it kind of old school mentality and or I don't know if it's mentality or if it's just like old school sayings, where they're like, oh, yeah, well, if you're a three-sport athlete, that means something to them. I do college recruiting every day, especially baseball wise. I talk to people about baseball players literally every day. I never once asked them, well, do you play other sport? Like, what are your other sports that you play? Like, we don't. Like, and I'm recruiting guys from all different parts all over the place. Frankly, like, if you are a basketball player, the first thing that pops into my brain in the recruiting is, that's kind of the likelihood of you getting more injured in my brain, just because it's contact sport, a lot of ankle injuries, knee injuries, and I just know how scholastic programs don't prepare athletes like they once did, and athletes just aren't as good of athletes like they once were. So I look at other sports in that aspect as kind of it's a worrisome thing for
I would
me when
say
I look at it.
athletes aren't their bodies aren't as prepared as were.
Yeah.
I would say kids now are more athletic than they used to be
I think
and bigger than they
I
used to
think
be.
the athletes that are playing are, but kids in general are
No,
not.
no, yeah, I would
Yeah,
agree with that,
yeah.
but, like, some of these kids are just
Oh,
monsters these days.
100%. Yeah,
Like,
if we're talking about the ones that are if you look at varsity athletics today
yeah,
into
it's
college athletics in comparison to
I
10
mean,
years ago,
we
totally agree.
yeah, if we
Yeah,
talk about, like,
yeah. I'm talking about
how many
all
kids on this
kids.
basketball team can dunk now compared
Right,
to
right, right, right.
that same team 10 years
Yes.
ago?
100%. It's night and day difference. Yeah.
But and I'm from a really small school too, so I mean I played 4 sports in high school, but I mean even it's you kind of it's like if you have a warm body, you got to do it. So like
Right.
I if a coach is recruiting for a kid from a smaller school, they're like they're going to assume
Mhm.
they play multiple sports and they'll probably take that as a positive just because well that takes a lot of dedication, work ethic. You're not burnt out at the sport I'm bringing you into. But that's why like you don't I'm not like I'm not saying you pick a sport when you're 6 and stick with it all the way,
For
right?
sure.
That's retarded.
For sure.
But like play as many sports as you can when you're young
Yeah.
and then like I mean we talked to um, Ty the other day. He played a bunch of sports up until around high school, and then he gave up football eventually when he knew pole vaulting is what he wanted to do, and D1 athlete now.
Yep.
Not saying that's what's going to happen for everybody, but and then like Keyshawn, he was a basketball player through and through, and then in the second he became a football player, he's like, I'm a football player now,
Exactly.
and he's like, I'm not going to go like 75, 85% at both these things. I'm going to go 100% at one of these things
Right.
and see how far it takes me. When you put that, and that's obviously Heights is 6A, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a 6A school, and that's kind of the mentality you have to have if you're 4A, 5A, 6A. As you get smaller schools, obviously, like I mean, they need bodies in the sports, and it
Yeah.
is fun. It's fun to do all the sports, but like I said, like I think back, like if I could nix track out, I could have used that month and a half to improve on my other sports. I could have had done a spring league for baseball, or I could have worked more on basketball, and um, could have lifted more towards football and everything
Yeah.
like that. But it definitely depends on the scenario. But if you are serious about going to college in a sport, I mean, sacrifices have to be made, and
Yeah.
and sometimes the old coaches, your high school coach is telling you do this sport so you're better at this sport. It doesn't necessarily. It's not really true most of
No.
the time.
Well, and that was kind of the topic of conversation because it's what I grew up in, which was, 10 years before you were born, I'm playing youth sports, right? Like, I think back in and that would have been in the 90s, early 90s, late 90s, whatever. Playing multiple sports was the way that you would become more athletic back then with the knowledge and approach to sports and the way that things were back then, right? There was no specialized training really in that era of time frame. There was like professional athletes,
Yeah.
but for college athletes,
Youth athlete.
youth athletes, youth to college was essentially the same stuff, right? You were just with your teams when you were with your teams. So, I believe that my parents and probably most of the parents around that time and generation said, "Well, I want my kid to be athletic, so I'm gonna keep them busy at all times of the year,"
Mhm.
right? In football or excuse me, in fall, we're gonna do a sport. Winter, we're gonna do a sport. Spring, we're gonna do a sport. Summer, we're gonna do a sport. I don't really care if they're, great at that sport or not, but that is my way of keeping them athletic because that's the most readily available option for me to be able to do that, right? Because I played sports, so I want them to play sports, right? And that's just kind of the trajectory of, what that timetable kind of looks like, right? How do you go about it? And then, obviously, as science has developed and things have changed and there's different options and different things out there, that's the old school mentality that I'm thinking of when I hear, especially to kids that are talking that way, where it's like, well, my coaches want me to play in this sport. My coaches want me to do this. My coaches want me to do that. And it's like, well, on one hand, they want you to stay active because if I was a high school coach, I can respect the idea of just wanting my guys to stay active. Like, I understand that. Like, yeah, I don't want them to take all winter and go home with how lazy kids are in this day and age and just play Xbox for 3 months and then show back up to track if that's his next sport, whatever. So I get the premise. Like, I understand what they're trying to do there. Keep them active because that's how it's going to help them become more athletic. Big, big, big umbrella type mentality looking at it that way. Number 1. Number 2, coaches, especially high school coaches, I think although they may sit, in a public eye and on a microphone and say, "Oh, it's not all about winning and losing, this, that, and the other." The reality is they wanna win. Like, they're competitive people. They don't want their programs to suck. Like, and I think the kid I talked to yesterday, I mean, I think his coach was pretty straight up with him, which I appreciate. Like,
Mhm.
the coach straight up was like, "Listen, when you're on our team, this team's gonna be better. Like, you have the possibility of being a state champion. Like, we want you to be involved with our program." I respect that, you know what I mean? Like, at least he's being straight up to him, being honest. Like, "Dude, we want you on the team because you're gonna help us win." Like, that's it, And now, I appreciate the honesty, but if an athlete doesn't necessarily want that, like, that's a whole different combo. But to this point of the topic, I understand why the high school coaches, I think, have the approach, at least for the most part. Like, I get that piece of it. But when we talk about athletes and the way that new school is what we'll call it, right? New science, new school, new findings and ways of going about doing things. I think there's age appropriation, right? Which is what you talked about. We're not talking about, you know, 6, 7, 8, 9 year olds. Like, that's a whole different, thing. Nobody even really understands what they want to do at that point in time. Play everything, find what you like, find what you love, right? Really, all the way into high school in my brain, keep doing that, right? And if you are good enough, like, to play in multiple different sports, I don't see anything wrong with it. It's not a right and wrong thing. It's more of a
Situation.
what does the athlete really want, right? Like, does the athlete, if say athlete is said soccer player and soccer player, he's really good at soccer, but then when you talk to him or her and they go, yeah, I hate soccer. I don't want to play soccer. I go out and play soccer because of my mom and dad, or I go out and play soccer just because I know I'm really good at it. But, I want to go to college for swimming. I love to swim. Swimming's my passion. Swimming's what I want to do. Right. And maybe they're a mediocre swimmer. Maybe they're a really good swimmer. Who knows? I just don't understand the premise behind continuing to play something that you just know that you don't want to do later down the road. Like,
Mm.
that's to me, it's just that's where I kinda draw the line when I have the conversations with athletes. I'm like, "Well, dude, if you don't like it," and really what I say is, "If you don't love it, then there's no reason to waste time on it." I just don't see the point in that. I If you don't love what you're doing and why you're doing it, number 1, you're gonna sacrifice time to the other things that you're looking to do. And 2, it's almost like you're torturing yourself while you're out there doing it. Like, if I hated baseball every day, don't get me wrong, there was days that I didn't enjoy it as much as other days, but I loved the game. Like,
Yeah.
there's not a I don't think that I will ever feel more peaceful than I did standing at shortstop with my glove on. Like, it's just something that you can't remake, And except for when I made errors, then I hated it out there, but that's sidebar, which I made plenty of those. But, it's just, that mentality towards it of, you gotta do all these different things. Well, the reality of it is no, you don't. Like, you don't have to. Like, you can spend your time much wiser. I think the point that I made when you and I talked yesterday was like, if I have a spring sport athlete that really, really likes his spring sports, and that's what he wants to focus on, it's called like Ty, right? He wants to do track, right? And he wants to focus on doing track. If he takes the 3 to 4 months of football season and removes football season, and he just focuses on track from his freshman year to his senior year, that would equate to an entire year worth of extra time that he would get to focus on track.
So you've basically made 1 year, 4 years.
Yeah. Multi I know where you're
Stacking up.
going, yeah. But
You've manipulated time at that point.
yeah, it's exactly right, right? So you get an extra year. And then, like you said, and I think almost every athlete I've ever talked to that plays at a high level, I'm like, what are things that you wish you could go back and do differently? Like, what are the things that you wish you could change? And almost everybody says, man, I just wish I would have focused on this earlier. I wish I would have taken it more serious earlier rather than wasting time, because time is the commodity you cannot get back. Like, you can't get it back. So when you play football for 2 years and you're a track athlete, that's 6 months or more, because when you factor in summer stuff and you factor in everything, that's time that you can't get back that you could have specialized and focused more so on that one sport that you truly love or say that you love and that you want to continue and try and do. So, I don't know. The byproducts of it, obviously, the athleticism, being a well rounded athlete. I just don't think you have to play a sport to become a good, well rounded athlete. I think that you can spend your time wisely, stay consistent and disciplined, doing the right stuff that will pertain to the sport that you're wanting to go and do. And you would spend that time much wiser and get much better in the thing that you say you want to get better at.
Well, it also comes down to parents, and not just parents, athletes as well, devaluing something like Parisi. Because what's trickled down to even high schoolers now is, everybody's got a Y membership or whatnot, and they use it, which is good, but they just think, okay, I'm gonna play my sport and I'm gonna lift, and that's gonna make me better at my sport. And it's not gonna hurt, but it's not gonna necessarily make you better at your sport. General strength will always help, of course. That's part of it. But it's not. It's still when you're when you're in sports constantly and not improving your athleticism, you're just in sports constantly, and nobody's ever going 100% in your sport. Um, Very rarely are you like you're going 100% of what you got sometimes, but it's not 100%. So you're never able to push through some of those plateaus. And the way you push through the plateaus is breaking through your ceiling of talent by pushing yourself to the max athletically, not necessarily, I need to hit a new bench max today. That'll make me a better football player. I need to hit a new deadlift max today. That'll make me a better football player. Or I need to hit a new squat max today. That'll make me a better baseball player. It's not going to hurt you, but if you're not taking the proper time to warm your body up, have a good workout where you're moving around and learn how to move better, then ultimately another sport's not going to capture that for you. These other sport, like I always got told, you want to be better at football, do track. Track did not make me better at football. I ran distance in track. Oh, you got a lot of stamina. So I didn't need that for football. I get a break between every play.
I think that only matters when you have no other option.
If I'm a football coach and I'm telling my player, the only players I'm telling to do track in the spring is going to be running backs and wide receivers. Corners, maybe safeties, maybe linebackers,
Just
like
your skill guys.
skill position guys, maybe linebackers. It's but I want my big boys to stay big. I don't need my big boys going out for track because it's going to condition them because it's not because they're just going to go over and throw the whole
Yeah,
time.
100%.
Like I'm and my quarterback if he's an athlete, sure, go do track. But like I mean, I was a quarterback and defensive back. Track didn't help me at all. Um, as far as football goes, track helped me in other things, sure, just in general, like general fitness and stuff like
100%.
that,
Yeah.
and that was fine. And it's not like I didn't enjoy it, but it's just the premise of do this sport to get better at this sport doesn't translate, and it's devaluing um, something like Parisi. It's devaluing training athletically
Yeah.
because you're not, you doing your team lifts and for sports is not going to make you better at the sport you love.
Yeah. I was trying to think in my head if there's ever been an interview or a time where it's been like, somebody's getting interviewed and they're talking about, they just won this or they just accomplished this and yada yada yada, and where they would go, well, what kind of led you to here, what it was, and then all of a sudden somebody's like, they're a football player and they're like, well, really honestly, I attest all my success to high school wrestling. Like, like I just
What
don't.
what got you here? Running the 3200 in
Yeah,
track in
yeah,
high
like
school.
cross country really, it shaped me for the like. Like, they have those times where they talk about, like, but it just doesn't it's like 2 different languages. That's how my brain conceptualizes it, like, it's tools on a tool belt, right? Like, it's just they're so different in all of the makeup of what the function is behind all of the stuff. It's just I don't understand the just one track mind mentality other than just in the sense for the coaching to keep people active. That's the only thing that I can kinda wrap my
Yeah,
head around.
I think that's
Now, and if you're
uh,
in, you're a 2A high school, right, out in the middle of nowhere with no legitimate options, and you're the coach of the football team, the basketball team, the track
and
team.
you're in charge of the lifting
I get
program.
it.
Yeah,
Like, okay,
totally,
now
totally.
now you can at least make that make sense to me. But I think in the world that we live in today with the options that are out there, and I'm not just saying us here at Parisi, I'm just saying in general, now, like you said, like, yeah, they get these Y memberships and they go there. They don't do any parents that are listening to this, just understand this, okay? They don't do anything in school weights, okay? I'm telling you right now, school weights is a social hour, and then it's an egotistical, testosterone-filled room that is not paying attention to anything, okay?
That's
So
why
that's
we get injuries from school
yeah,
weights.
all the time. All the time. Not all every day, but
And
all the time.
it's not always the instructor or teacher's fault. It's just the fact that they're one person with a class of 20 plus people or even 10 plus people.
Logistical
They
problems.
can't keep eyes on everybody at the same time.
Yeah.
And it's and if you don't properly if you don't properly coach those things, kids are going to get hurt. And because kids are going to, especially like you said, boys are going to want to lift heavy
They're gonna
and
wanna outlift each other.
they're going to want to outlift each other. They're going to want to outlift themselves.
Yes.
They're not capable of doing.
Yes.
And and then they're going to do it wrong and they're going to hurt themselves. And then they're going to come here and they'll be like, oh, I hurt myself. I'm like, doing what?
Exactly.
Squatting. Why?
Yeah.
You
How?
know how to squat.
Right.
Why are you hurting yourself squatting?
Exactly.
Like, did you just forget what we work on here, and then you go and try to ego lift? And look, I mean, I've done plenty of ego lifting before.
Oh, for sure.
I'm not. I mean, why not?
Yeah,
Why not?
we're old now, we can do it.
But I was also like in my 20s.
Yeah.
So
You're still in your 20s.
and it
Easy
was
now.
well
You're a young buck.
maybe,
You're a pretty strong young buck
but
too.
so it's kind of well, and then athletes will come in and be like, "Well, I lift here and I can do most of this myself. We already kind of do this stuff." Yeah, you kind of do it, dude. There's no oh man, there's just there's no true individual improvement from a school weights or you going to the Y or whatever that's gonna actually contribute to your sports because even if you're doing sled pushes or sled pulls or some quote unquote athletic movements in your school weights or your team weights or even at the Y, you're not going to get the reps in.
Yeah.
You're just not. Like,
The
you're s
volume's
it's
off.
too big of
Yeah.
groups, and then then the main goal of all these people is just conditioning.
Yes.
So it doesn't end up being a workout where they're focused on your technique and making sure you're doing it right. That's actually gonna contribute to you being a better athlete. It's just going to make you sweat, make you feel like you got a good workout in,
Yep.
even if you had bad form and didn't do it right. You just did the work, you got it done, and then you go home and you sit down and you eat a bad meal and drink a bad drink, and then
Like we
all of
said,
the work that you did gain is gone.
yeah, well, like we said yesterday, it's a lifestyle. It's not just showing up and being present, right? It's not just showing up and quote unquote working hard. Like those are the minimums. Like
Yeah.
that's the minimum stuff, and that's the societal issue. And granted, we should probably preface this with we're talking about our area here with the
In
knowledge that we have,
in general,
but I would
this is
say in
more general.
general, yeah,
Obviously, there's athletes out there who do the
correct,
right things. They keep
correct,
track of their nutrition.
correct.
They actually sleep. I don't sleep, so good on you. Don't drink over exuberant amounts of caffeine like I do. And there are athletes who actually are doing some research on their own to
Sure.
try and do stuff
Mhm.
like we're doing here,
Yeah.
right?
There's
But
athletes that take in more caffeine than you do too. Like,
there
they're
is.
out
They're
there.
out there. I'm
Yeah.
sure, you know.
Well,
Hopefully they're at least over 18 when they're
yeah.
doing that. But um
What I was gonna say on the YMCA things, we get that a lot too,
no,
right? Like,
I go lift by myself.
well, yeah, I go and do this, and it just brings me back to like the statistical like outlook on it, right? Number one, okay, that's great. Like you're going to lift. What's your plan?
Uh,
Well, I just kind of, I'm doing a little bit of this, a little bit of that. It's like, okay,
yeah,
gotcha.
so you
So
got your back and buys that can
right.
help you be a better
Like,
football
so
player.
you're
Little
you're
back and buys.
just simply going there, and again, it's a social hour. For the guys, they're looking to see what scouting talent that's running
You
around out
know.
there, right? Like, they're how much focus are we really actually putting into it? Number one, but then number two, and this goes across. It's all ages. It's not just athletes that we're dealing with, right? How many parents out there that hopefully there's a parent listening to this? Do you have a gym membership? Do you go every day? Like, do you pay attention to what it is that you're doing while you're there? We have the most unathletic, unhealthy country ever in our lives, and it probably just keeps growing day by day. But yet, all of a sudden, we think our athletic kids are going to go and hold themselves accountable on their
No.
own.
No,
Like, no.
we're lazy by nature.
Yes, they're
This is
not doing those things, and that's
eh,
what it takes to compete at the highest level is, dude, the discipline that it takes to get those style and types of results. Why do you think we got a whole staff here that stays on top of it? Because we all still slack at it at points and
yeah,
times.
yeah.
Like, so it's our whole staff staying on top of ourselves to do the stuff that we are asking these athletes to do. And we're not even perfect at it. And we literally live here every
Yeah.
day. But yet you're going to tell me your 14, 15-year-old kids going out and they're locked in on their programming. That is 1 in a million type odds. Like it's just, and again, like it just boils down to the fact that it's like, man, it's a lifestyle. Like you have to be fully committed into it to really try and get the style and types of results that we get here. And there's other programs that get really good results as well too, right? I'm not trying to only toot our horn and make it
I
all
am.
about us. That's okay. We can. But, it's just those it's a cultural problem I think across the board is thinking that that's just the only way to go about it, and that's what brainwashes, in my eyes, these kids that are in high school into thinking that that is the only way to go about it, and it's not. Like, it's just I mean, it's not. There's other ways that you can prioritize your time, pay attention to the time, and actually be committed to the thing that you say you're wanting to be committed to, which sometimes changes in the process as well, right? Like, I think that that's also a harsh reality that athletes deal with when it's like, okay, well, all right, we're going to go for 12 weeks. And they're like, all right, hell yeah, let's do
Yeah.
it. And then it's like, we're 2 weeks in, and all of a sudden we start to see the slack off start coming. And that's where the accountability in the program is what you're really paying for at the end of the day is someone to say, hey, why are we doing this? Like, I was just getting on to a kid last night. I mean, literally, because I'm watching him miss reps. And I'm like, what are you doing? And he's in week 3 maybe, 2 or 3. So it's always around that time frame where he thinks, nobody's
Ugh,
paying attention or
now
whatever, and
he's
I'm
just
like, "No,
going
no,
with the
no, no,
flow.
no." I'm like, "No, sir." Like, "Dude, I didn't say I want 4. I said I wanted 5."
Well, that's
Like, you know?
when it comes. Yeah, when kids, you talked about it a little bit there. When they're going to the Y, it is still. I mean, they'll a good chunk of them are probably still getting some good work in. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not saying
Yeah.
they're not doing anything, but we hear it from people our age too. It's well, my age and maybe your age. I don't know. But like they go to the Y if they're single. It's a thing that but it's also about putting on a some sort of a show for other people.
Oh, yeah.
And when they come in here, and there's a lot of people in here, but it's you have to a lot of times forget about putting on some sort of a show for other people and just put work in, and they don't want to commit to that. They like going to their Y and seeing everybody and everybody seeing them hit whatever it might be, which is fine. Like, I mean, you want to feel proud of your accomplishments. I get that. You want other people to see your accomplishments. Maybe you got a few friends at the gym that you see once in a while, maybe a few mentors over. That's great.
That's the gratification I think they
But
look for. "Oh,
they
we
don't,
saw this guy. He's been here."
but taking pictures and posting that you
Uh-huh.
hit the gym today, and then you go and do one set of bench and one set of cables, and you're done. And then, but you come in here and you have to kind of put in the work when nobody's watching, and people like can't get motivated to do that a lot.
Mhm.
So it's that part too is they want and that might come down to doing other sports as well. They want to they I mean, maybe there's somebody that they like on the girls basketball team. That's why they want to do basketball. They're kids, and I totally get that. I'm obviously
For sure.
a lot of that those kind of things I'm the same way, right? It's but when it comes down to it, it's just okay. I got to make some sacrifices if I really want to go there. Like
Yeah.
it is what we talked about the other day.
Yep.
You want to go play a sport, and I don't want to hear NAIO, JUCO, or D2 or D3 isn't D1. It sure talent wise, no,
Yeah.
but schedule wise and work wise is still the same freaking thing. Like it is
Yep.
you are still my freshman year was such a shell shock, man. I mean, we're practicing for 8 weeks of fall ball. We practice 3 hours every night, and that's not including like, uh early work with your like we went to early work with my infield slash hitting coach. And so essentially 4 hours every day of the week, if you weren't 3 hours if you weren't doing early work. And then all day inter squad or other team scrimmages on Saturday and Sunday. It was 7 days a week. We probably 35 to 40 hours over there on that baseball field a week for 8 weeks. We got one week of break in between those, and then we had that fall ball World Series and that night week 9. So it was a grind. The new coach came in, it wasn't as much of that, but it's all levels. JUCO, they don't even have rules over there, so I mean they might they'll go
JUCO's wild,
yeah,
man.
like
It's a Wild West.
you, you you have to be dedicated to play a sport in college.
Yep.
And that's why we see so many kids, they'll go to college and then they're done
Mhm.
after a semester.
Yep.
I know a lot of kids who did that.
I trained all-state running back last year who went to college, and now he's at home.
Yeah. I mean, they can't,
One of the best overall
oh yeah.
fluid athletes that I think we've probably ever had with the potential.
Oh yeah.
Showed up to college. It's competitive. He's not the top dog. Now what? I mean, it's just it's
And I'm telling you, I'm
the
done.
levels.
You can be one of those kids who is a hard ass worker on the field, do your stuff off the field, go to the Y, and that's still not going to prepare you for college.
Yep.
I don't care what level you go to.
Yep.
So you have to be committed. And whatever sport that you really think you can go to college in, you have to be committed to that.
Yep.
And that's kind of the main thing about this. If you really don't know if you want to do college sport and you just want to enjoy playing a bunch of sports right now, that's awesome. Do it.
100%.
you know? But if you're like, I want to go be a college baseball player, well, you got to start preparing like a college baseball player.
Mhm.
I want to go be a college football player. Well, if you're not like, it's the cases of like, there's a lot of D1 linemen that go to like Iowa, just my team, obviously.
Our team.
Our team, yes.
Our team, yes.
They were like state champions or state finalists in wrestling. Yeah, these are D1 offensive linemen and defensive. They're freaks. Whether they're 3-star, 4-star, 5-star, that's still a top 400 player in the country on football. And so they have a little bit of heads up on people. We don't have as many of those down here. And it's not that they're not out there, but they're going to have to work even harder to do that. So if another sport's going to drain your potential at the sport you're best at, sometimes despite you don't have to be a people pleaser. You got to make sacrifice for yourself and move forward in preparing yourself and putting yourself in the best shoes for the next level.
Yep. What would you all right, so someday here's a hypothetical question.
No.
Someday, married with your children, right? You're gonna be having a nice, plentiful family. And, what would be your kind of off the top of the rip here? Like what's your plan, in the sense, let's say your kids, get all the nonsense out of the way. They want to play sports, they're athletic, they enjoy it, like all that stuff, right? What's your kind of like if you're gonna tell a parent, like, what's kind of your strategy or timing plan or game plan behind what you think makes the most sense all the way leading up into obviously hopefully getting, some college offers.
Well, first of all, got to talk to a woman first. So, and that just doesn't happen. But anyway, if that did
That does
happen, if
happen.
that did
It
happen,
will.
we'll see. But I think with that, I mean, I'm whatever, I they're going to be very, very active when they're younger. We're going to, try a bunch of different things. We'll have a little football, a little baseball, whatever it might be, basketball, and we're going to play a lot of sports when they're younger. And then as they go through middle school and they tell me they don't want to do something, if it's midway through this season, they're finishing it out. I don't care. But after that season, then we can revisit that and move on. And I think that'd be a good time, like between those 5th to 8th grades. If they don't want to do something, fine, take a year off and then see if you miss it.
Mhm.
You know, and then as you get into high school, if this kid really wants to go to college, if he doesn't want to go to college and he just wants to go get a job, she just wants to go to get a job, fine. I mean, awesome. Don't get into debt. Great. I mean, I tell kids, when I was coaching and I was still in college, they'd be like, "Hey, what's your thoughts on playing here or playing here?" I was like, "Well, what are your thoughts on school?" Which is another avenue we can go down. But as we get into high school, I think that's when, depending on the size of the school we're in, it have to depend on that as well. Like, because we talk, smaller schools will probably be doing just about everything.
Mhm.
But I'm also not going to have them play, if they're a baseball or a softball player, I'm not going to have them play baseball 9 months out of the year, or soccer 9 months out of the year, or basketball 6 months out of the year. They need breaks from those sports. And if that sport ends up being with a break, ends up being with another sport in there when they're younger and growing up, or maybe the first few years of high school, sure. But once they get to about the sophomore, junior year, and they really want to focus on something or focus on two things, and then we can kind of figure it out from there. That'd be that kind of time frame. And it's like, okay, are you really serious about this? You really want to do this? You really want to like try to go in college and play a sport? Awesome. All right, let's do it. But that's when it's like, okay, what sport do you most enjoy and what sport do you think you're the best at? And then obviously I'm not going to let them make all the decisions. I got to
Yeah.
weigh in with my advice and everything. But and I think one of the other things in that scenario would be that Um, what are if you do go to college, what are you planning to do with your education? Do you have a plan? Like, are you gonna go to, like, a JUCO and do a trade while you're playing? Awesome, that's great. But if you're gonna go to college without a plan, you're gonna plan on switching your majors 17 different times, and then you're gonna end up 4 years in, you've quit your sport, and you still don't have a degree yet, then I'm gonna tell you to not like, if that's the road we're going down, don't do it, you know?
Yeah.
Like, and you just like, if you really wanna play a sport, we'll kinda figure that stuff out along the way, but make sure you have a plan of what you wanna do school-wise, so you can at least get that degree in 2 or 4 years or whatever it might be,
Yeah.
because I think that's another thing you gotta look at as well, especially when choosing a school and choosing what sport you're gonna do, because there's gonna be time
Sports
commits.
sports are gonna end too,
Yeah.
so knowing that side of it, I think, should weigh in. I mean, there's times that it might not be quote unquote as important, but there
Yeah,
is
just
times that
like
that you do
I
gotta
just
narrow
know,
that in some.
if you're really, if you're really hating the sport after 1 year, half a year, 1 year, and you're at a 4 year,
You
get
ain't
out.
going.
Like, and,
Yeah,
and you don't have a plan yet with school, get out of there.
right.
Like, you don't need to keep racking up debt over and over again. And but anyway, now that'd be kind of my game plan with kids. I mean, obviously, I can look and say that's going to happen right now.
Yeah,
But that's just based on my experiences, what I've learned working here the last 2 years, what I've learned from athletes and seeing athletes and working with athletes and
yeah.
seeing how they go. Obviously, me and Sheldon are not life coaches or experts.
No.
We're coaches, but who can help you with life decisions, but we're not life coaches or experts. So,
Yeah,
and once again, when we're making criticisms, it's not, oh, we know everything and you know nothing. It's just, this is based on our experiences and our athletes' experiences
sure.
and trying to give our best advice. This is not concrete knowledge. And this is when we're talking about stuff, it's more of a general population. I am absolutely sure there are some athletes checking all the right boxes by themselves. I mean,
Yeah.
like,
Or you could just hate on us online. We don't
you
really
could,
care.
you
Just
could
go for it. And that ain't
light
gonna
up the comment section.
Yeah, give us some
So,
free
this
pub.
idiot,
Yeah. But no, I mean, obviously, so I do have 3 kids and
rub it in. It's fine.
getting to that point now for myself, but just looking at how they now granted, situation is different than the common person, right? My kids are growing up inside of this facility. They're here
Helps.
dang near every day. They're constantly moving. Ashley and myself, we share same kind of values in the sense of how, we want them to be active, not on technology. Like we're very cutthroat in that, like we have it a certain way at home. Like it's going to stay that way until they are in high school. Like, we're not caving on the technology thing, like, we're just gonna adapt with it and make sure things are moving in a safe and good way, but when it comes to the sports side, it's like, for me, the age is it's relative because it depends on each athlete, right? What their capabilities are showing at any given year, what their deficiencies are gonna show me at any given year, but I would guesstimate that especially with my kids, hopefully, they're all bigger and taller than me, especially Banks, but, um, if we get to that age range of about 10 and 11 is where I think that I would start allowing them to tell me, "Hey, like, I think I wanna specialize here. Like, I think that I wanna try and focus a little bit more in this area." Now, that doesn't mean that, we wouldn't depending on what the athlete looks like at that point in time, whether it's my kid or whoever, you know, if they have the intangible pieces and the tangible pieces to play whatever it is, my advice would kinda direct in that direction, right? But I until they're around that age, I don't care what sports they play. I want them to play everything. I
Yeah.
don't care what season it is. I don't care whatever it is. Obviously, there's a little bit more of a logistical situation because there's me and Ashley with my schedule, and then we got to get them to all the practices and the different things, which is a whole different part of parenthood you don't think of, I don't think. But once you get all that stuff figured out and you can basically carpool them to the same place and they can all kind of do the same things, that's what is perfect scenarios. But until they're around that age, I don't care. You ain't catching me paying for a travel nothing. Like we ain't traveling and going, I'm not paying to go win the 7-year-old Arkansas blah, 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 whatever. Like,
I'll suit up for that
yeah,
then.
I'm not doing that. Like, and the
I
parents that are
identify as
all
7 years
hard
old.
up on that, like, you guys are nuts, like, absolutely nutcases. Like, it just doesn't I mean, I have memories of when I played baseball probably before I was 10 years old, like, I could tell you some
Oh, yeah.
specific memories. Nothing about baseball before 10 years old made me a better baseball player.
I was a T-ball monster. They'd
Exactly.
always bat me last.
I
It did
think it made
everybody
me
good.
worse if I really am being honest with myself, but, like, you're not gonna have any type of habitual stuff where your habits are formed at that age that can't be fixed, and they're not things that you can get better at because I was just downright terrible at baseball until well after that. But I still loved it because I just love running around out there and trying to tackle the baseball and kind of Banks's energy like just all over. So, like until we get to that rough age, do it all. Like have as much fun as you want, play everything, win, lose, draw, doesn't matter.
Literally
Like
does not matter.
none of that matters. But I'm also not we're not doing lessons. And I'm not saying that I agree 100% with me, but if my age is around that age, we're not specializing anywhere. Like, I want you to get a feel for it as an athlete. Then, when we get to that age range, right, then it's about narrowing down to probably two sports. I also don't think in the history of sports there's ever been a three sport professional athlete. I don't think that there's one that exists out there that I know of anyway that's played three different sports at a professional level in the same year at the same time. We've had two sports, and those are beyond rare. Like three or four of them come to mind in the entire history of the world playing sports. Like, I don't know, but not a lot. And maybe some track and field people have a little bit more in there that I just don't know who they are. I'm sure there's more, but so, 2 sports is probably where I would be influencing to try and say, "Hey, like, let's try and narrow this down around this age range," right? That 11 to 13, somewhere in there, 11 to 13, let's try and narrow it down around that time frame, so that way we can become more competitive at that time frame. Because then, during those years, I wanna try and get involved as competitive as I can possibly get involved to determine whether or not is this going to be the sport that we're going to focus on in high school? Like, is this going to be the thing that we're basically deciding to go all in high school? Then I think I would balance out one, what school are we at? What's the size of the school? That type of stuff. You got to put all that into perspective. But then two, how good is my athlete? Like, and I think that's going to be the hard part of my kids growing up with me. They're just going to have the real, raw, honest answers at all times because if Banks isn't gonna be a basketball player, he's gonna know he's not gonna be a basketball player, and you call that stomping on someone's dreams or whatever, I just call it being honest with him, like like, there's pieces in the recruiting side of the game in this day and age that if you just don't have those pieces, you're not going to get to the opportunity to do it. So rather than wasting time, I'm gonna say, "Hey, we're gonna redistribute. We gotta put our time here, do this stuff in high school." But I think it'd be awesome to have them as 2 sport athletes in high school if they want to play sports and they want to do the whole bit. But, and if they don't, they don't. Like, we can kinda go from there. But, trying to force feed them at 6, 7, 8, 9 years old to be on these travel, basketball, football, soccer, all of that stuff is just something that I would never, ever, ever do because as much as someone gets at playing soccer 9 months out of the year, instead of just playing a 3-month season, or let's say indoor and outdoor, call it 6 months out of the year. You give me 6 months with an athlete where they come in here every single day, 100% of the time after those 6 months, I will produce a better athlete than play for whoever and whatever team out there in whatever sport. I'll give you a better athlete at the end of 6 months. I promise you. Like, the numbers will not lie in that aspect. And they'll go out there and sure, they may not be as good at soccer, but then if you take 6 months to teach them soccer, they'll be better than every soccer player that you had for that time frame, right? Like, it's just I don't know, it's a different paradigm, it's a different way of looking at it, and I think that, you know, honing in on some of that stuff earlier is the smart way of going about it, and you're just gonna not waste time, which time you can't get back
It's your most valuable asset.
unless you manipulate time.
Well,
And if you manipulate time, you can double your
by
time.
the way, what time is it right now?
About time to get off.
Yeah. By 11 AM, I've
Oh,
already
it's
had
11:02.
3 days. So my one day is actually
Uh,
2.5
That's
days.
funny.
So I'm ahead of you.
You're crazy. All right,
Just
lead us in a
kidding. I woke
prayer.
up. I woke up at 8 this morning.
Yeah.
So
Appreciate you guys tuning in. That was episode 38, talking about, I don't know, kind of call it a,
yeah,
training,
getting stuff off our chest. I
a
don't know.
little training
Just
regimen, outlook on life. There you go.
putting our opinions out there.
Pray.
Stinky opinions.
Pray,
All right,
please.
sorry. Lord, thank you again to sit down and have a platform, no matter how big or small it is. Just pray that when we lead with advice, that we lead with development and just character in mind. And I just pray that ultimately that you're the source of that. I know our opinions can get mixed in there, so just pray that ultimately you're the source of our advice. And what we do here is to help with development as an athlete and as a human, and not just not chase any superficial things, but strengthen our minds, strengthen our bodies, Lord, to glorify you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. All right, that wraps us up for episode 38. Appreciate you guys checking in and tuning in. If you made it this far, definitely holler at us if you got any athletes that you'd like us to interview or things to talk about. And we will talk to you guys soon.
You didn't make it this far.
Do it anyway.